The basic design was highly successful, and the tough and reliable chassis did not only mean that it could serve as the basis for over 100 variants, including self-propelled guns, anti-aircraft systems and APCs, but it also did result in a lot of interest on the international arms market. From the about 7,700 units produced, about 45% went to export, and the AMX 13 series is even used these days in a variety of countries. Due to its widespread nature, it did also see action in several armored engagements, ranging from the Suez Crisis, both by the French and the Israeli forces, down to the Six-Day War by Israel, and also in the Indo-Pakistani War or the Lebanese Civil War. Oh, by the way, the Israeli service. This is an interesting one, as this was actually one of the first tanks that Israel could buy back then when it was pretty much only France who would sell weapons to them openly. Due to this limitation, they used these light tanks as main battle tanks, setting up whole battalions of them. While they did their job, the losses were, as expected, quite high, especially during the Six-Day War, so as soon as they could invest in some heavier armor, they phased out the AMX series and sold most of them to the Singaporean army. So, quite a success story on the French tank designers' part then. But history lessons now over. Let's have a look at the main course, aka how it really compares against its auto-loading competition at Tier 7, the T-71, the very popular M41 Bulldog, or the relatively new addition, the German SP1C. Kicking it off right away with a direct comparison of its firepower, the 1375 actually has the best DPM with over 1900 damage per minute, beating everyone else at this tier. Now this is mostly down to its lightning fast clip reload with a base 15 seconds only. This is crazy good, and something that I enjoyed a lot about this machine. You barely have to be out of the action in this thing, and that can be sometimes quite frustrating in these autoloaders. The rest, however, well, isn't really in the 1375's favor. You have the lowest alpha damage of the bunch with only 135 damage per shot, limiting our burst damage with a 6-round clip to a potential 810 damage only. The more painful drawback is, however, the penetration. That's far worse than the usual 75mm that most of the other lights get at this tier. With a measly 144mm only on your standard AP shells, you definitely have to go for weak spots, getting in the sides and rear of the enemy tanks to make this work. And even then it's your very best interest to not rely fully on auto-aim that much. Exactly for the same reason, you will see a lot of 1375s firing nothing but APCR, which will improve their pen to 202mm in return. Now, while this is a definite disadvantage of this machine, I have to say that I could make it work without much problems, for the most part without firing any APCR. You just have to hold your fire until you get to the juicy bits, not to waste your ammunition for nothing. And by the way, that's a very important point, as unfortunately this machine gets 6 magazines only, which means that 36 shells is all you are going to get. This is way less than what the T-71 or the M41 have at their disposal, so there will be battles where you just simply won't have the ammunition to carry the team all the way, something that another light tank could maybe have easily done. The shell velocity is solid with 1000 meters per sec, but even this is much better with the competition. The same is also being true for the aim time at 2.2 seconds, but at least the accuracy is the best of the bunch with 0.35 meters, and the secondary dispersion values aren't half bad either. Unfortunately, there is still another slap in the face left with the gun. Both the elevation at a maximum of 9 degrees and depression at 6 degrees is, well, pretty bad, and definitely lacking compared to the other lights at this tier. Moving on to protection, you actually have one of the best health pools with 900 HP and the most armor, but that's really an advantage only on paper. You are still very much a light tank that's going to get penetrated by everything that shoots at it, so play it accordingly. Unfortunately, there are still some bad news on this front as well. Your engine health is pretty weak, which means that, much like the AMX 12T, you will get regularly tracked and your engine knocked out with a single hit, which means pretty much that you can start thinking about what you should play next. Moving on to mobility, your top speed at 61 km per hour is not bad. But the 20 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio and the average terrain resistances mean that you will accelerate actually worse than the competition. Once again, these figures are not bad on their own, but there are just better options out there. At least the turret traverse is pretty damn good with about 48 degrees per second, while the hung traverse at 42 degrees is solid too, even if it's outclassed by the others. And last but not least, view range is slightly worse once again with only 390 meters at your disposal. Your camo rating on the other hand is top notch, finally something, and it's by far the best of the bunch. So, verdict time. It was never really a question that this machine is simply outclassed by the same tier competition. So if you are just looking for a tier 7 light to play, this is not what you should use. It's not a bad machine though on its own right. In the first half of the battle you can do both passive and active scouting quite well with your great camo rating. And then you can go and hunt down the wounded and or separated enemy tanks with your auto-loader. Oh, and by the way, same as with the AMX 12T, as they are so very much disliked and, well, mostly badly played as well, these machines can be actually quite good for WN8 grinding for those that can make it work. Equipment-wise, I would suggest to use vents, camo net and optics for this baby. And I would strengthen the camo advantage with the crew skills as well, going first for camo and sixth sense, followed by snapshot, smooth ride, and then followed by brothers in arms. Alright, this was then the pros and the cons, well, mostly cons really. Time to take it out for a spin and have a look at what you can do with a good camo and a quick reload. Alright, so here we are in our AMX 1375 in an encounter battle on good old steps. Now the matchmaking has been really generous. This is pretty much the best that you can hope for in a tier 7 light tank, as there are really only a handful of tier 8 machines on both of the teams. So you can basically consider yourself as being top tier. Now, positioning wise, at the beginning of the match I decided to go for the typical spotting position towards the bush and the rocks over on E7 to see what's coming through towards the cap. Now, as this is encounter, I most probably won't actually have anyone behind me that could shoot up those guys, and that's quite unfortunate because that will limit our possibilities to get some real spotting damage done in this game. But nevertheless, it should be useful information to know what kind of opposition we can expect around the cap. And there are a couple of mediums moving up, which is good news. So if we spot a huge amount of armor moving down towards the cap, there is actually someone that could react to this information as well. Now the only thing you really have to watch out for in this position is that if somebody is aggressive in the middle, down the road, you can get easily spotted and actually shot up as well from a couple of positions, so this is a bit of a risky position, but then again a quite lucrative one. So far though, I actually didn't spot anybody, which is a little bit surprising. So, whoops, that was a quite aggressive move, and indeed we are instantly spotted now. I don't have actually sixth sense in this machine, so I will have to play it a lot more carefully than that. And well, that VK was pretty much pre-aimed at it. Pre-aimed at us, and oh no, you really don't want to face down an IS-3's gun in this machine, that's for sure. So, we do see actually 3 heavy tanks moving towards the location together with a Jagdpanther. So, at least now we know the positioning of the enemy team a little bit better. Now we will have to do a little bit of a peekaboo here, waiting until we are dropping off the radar, and then we can start to harass these guys once again. Again, there is actually nobody behind us who could shoot at these guys, so we have to do the shooting ourselves as well. Have to be careful though, this machine, as we discussed, has only 900 hit points and basically no armor. So we really shouldn't be taking too many more hits. By the way, that reload is so great, 15 seconds at base. Just have to be a little bit more careful with our aiming, We are already down to only 28 shells left, and the battle is barely 3 minutes old. That's just something that you really have to be careful with this machine. With a quick reload though, you can be a real nuisance for the enemy team. But whoa, look at that Tiger. Where are you going, buddy? Those shells seem to dip quite a lot, so let's aim a little bit higher. 144mm of pen is usually well enough for the flat sides of the enemies. That was actually a ricochet from the Tiger. So quick reload and have a look how fast it is to have a complete reload in this machine. We are almost ready to go at this Tiger again. And by the way, we are already at about 1000 damage done. Mostly to the Tigers on the team. And no, we are definitely not spotted anymore, though he is angled a little bit. And man, Tiger 1 tracked in the open, so annoying that there is nobody on the team who could actually take advantage of it. And that Tiger 1 must be pretty pissed by now, which is always a nice thing when you are driving your light tanks. Picking on big, stupid heavy tanks is a great sport. Alright, so Tiger 1 pulled back, and now he's being shot at by the Skoda T25. Should distract him long enough so we can make a move. Now, looking at the teams, there is nobody at the moment who could spot us or who could give us any trouble, which means we should have plenty of time to move up to the Tiger and, well, basically jump on him. And this is really what you should do in the second half of the battle. This is a singled out opponent you can really easily outmaneuver and just empty a whole clip into them. There we go, Tier 7 heavy tank, no problem. Alright, what should be next? Well, next up should definitely be the artillery. That's a GW Panther. They have very narrow gun arc, so moving sideways on is our best chance to avoid their shells. I make here a very foolish mistake of stopping in front of it, but luckily I get away with it. And he is down, and the SU doesn't seem to be even fazed by the fact that he's being shot at by an autoloader. In fact, he gives us enough time to just simply reload and then take him out as soon as the first shell is in the barrel. And there we go. And by the way, this is our last clip already. This is how quickly you can chew through your ammunition, and this is definitely a huge disadvantage. We have basically half the ammunition capacity than what the Bulldog would have. But at least in this match there is only an OI and an IS-3 that's left, and the OI is a pretty juicy